One interesting aspect, I guess, of the materials, it's interesting. I've got all these, like these nitrum charcoals, and they all come in these different hardnesses so that you can get in there and really gently manipulate the form, and I can do this, with this little soft tool. And that's what I'm doing is I'm just manipulating those little tiny variations in the form around there. Uh, but the problem is this chalk. And if you guys decide to try this chalk, my warning is it's it's kind of like all or nothing. As gently as you can just barely touch the paper, and of course you can pull it back off, and I think that's its saving grace. But there are other, the general pencils. They have a, let's see, I've got one right here. I know you guys know what I'm talking about if I can find it. So general pencil, you guys have seen these, and I've used those before. So you might ask then, why aren't I using it? And really, I suppose, in little areas like that, you wouldn't really notice because the tones are so close. But like I said, that's probably can't see that on camera, but that's that ivory color and that's white. So if I could find a little harder material that was in just a little bit of an off-white, I would love it. I would love to have two different variations of this chalk. But until somebody or I find it, I just have to be so careful with that. It's amazing. It might be good for me because I tend to have that heavy hand, and I tend to put things in really dark and light and heavy. So just have to be so delicate with that chalk. But it works. And I'm still trying to decide if I like all of this. Without the color, I'm trying to decide if it looks like backlighting. If it looks like her hair that's been hit by a secondary light source. I thought that little spot actually, it's not even in the photo, but that actually kind of helped a little bit. I can, let's see, make sure I'm not giving her too much hair. Down here, her hair gets really frizzy. It's amazing these loose pieces of hair, how much light they can catch. Soften just a little bit of that so it doesn't get too. But there's just strands of hair that come clear out into there and catch that light going. They're going everywhere too. There's some right here. This is a curl that comes out over her ear, and the light catches right there too a little bit. We can see what that does. And there's some dark right behind it, but yeah, it gets down here. Just it's really kind of fuzzy and light. So I think I'm okay with it. I think it works. So we'll probably leave it, but it's also one of those things. Just maybe don't want to overplay my hand either. Let's take it down a little further too and see what a couple longer strokes do. Maybe out. Well, that's not too bad. That might work. Let's try that for a while. And leave it alone, work other areas, and then come back and I'll see if I still like it or not. Now, I was saying in the beginning that this is a sketch. And I've probably spent more time in the face than I was originally intending. I guess I was kind of thinking maybe more like a sketch from life. But it's funny, inevitably you've got the photo in front of you and it's not moving, and you've got the day to do it. So you just kind of keep working. And I'm actually enjoying this. I think it's fun to just see these little nuances starting to make the face look really three-dimensional. And I guess I was thinking maybe I think the aspect of the sketch would run more along the lines of a detailed area like this surrounded by kind of a little bit of, oh, I don't, maybe not chaos, but an undefined area. So that quote of something to the effect of, when you surround a more finished area with areas that are unfinished, it makes that polished area look even more finished. So it's kind of that. I have to find that quote somewhere. I know I've got it written down, and I can't even remember at this point who said it, but it's brilliant. So if you want an area like this to look even more refined, instead of refining everything around it, leave everything around it a little bit loose, and it will intensify the refinement of that finished area. It's that kind of balancing thing again. So I suppose that is, we'll say that's the sketchy part of this. Eyelashes are actually catching a little light, and I've got them in as dark. And I suppose that works as long as, I'd like to see that they're, those are the eyelashes there, and I suppose it doesn't matter if they're darker, because I don't think I really want to make that area behind as dark as it looks in the photo. Although I do like that darkness right there. I could try it, I suppose. You could just use your eraser here. Let's I don't know. Let's see what it does. No, there's the advantage if you're doing. Oh, hey, that's not too bad actually. I was a little afraid to do that. I have to admit, I had some trepidation telling myself, "No, leave it." But I think that actually works. Yeah, what I was going to say is that's your advantage if you do digital. Is you can do Control Z and undo something, or do another layer, and put that try that experiment on a layer. If you don't like it, you just get rid of that layer. There. So I meant I meant to do that. I'm always brave, right? I'm never afraid. Yeah, it's funny. I think. It's at this point too, because I've got a fair amount invested in this thing. I certainly don't want to mess any of it up, but that something like that, is easy because I know I could put that back to really dark. So, but yeah, actually, I think I like just that little air of light catching on those eyelashes. Who knows? Maybe I'll come back here and start working things, come back to it, and decide I don't like it. I think as artists we're allowed to be fickle, right? Okay, so really loving that. I love that sharp edge right there. That, and then this is starting to feel much better to me. A weird little light spot right there. I didn't really mean to put in there. It's just the texture of the paper. And I don't know, let's see. There's a fair amount of light catching that upper lip. It's kind of surprising. Kind of around that little separation of her lips right there. And it's amazing how high up that lower lip comes, and then it really drops down a lot right there. And very full, so I'm going to make sure that bottom lip is full enough. So there we go. Maybe just, that. Let's see. Okay, let's go back to one of those nitrums and see if we can just work that soft edge right there. You squint, and your squint kind of tells you if it's wrapping in in form. Actually, the squint told me that might just be a little her lips might be just a little bright. You know, the value of lips, or unless they have lipstick on them, are pretty close to the value of our skin, but that really varies. Some people's lips are just naturally darker. Some people's lips are more purple. And with age, we tend to lose the redness in them. I'm going to push that down. So now it's starting to look like she might have lipstick on. And I don't know, I don't mind that. I think that's perfectly fine. And that highlight's really small. Let's see. Now I probably need to come back in and I'm going to have to sharpen this pencil. It's lost its tip. So we drop that down, back up, and then really drops down into that. And then all that softness. Yeah, that was, I liked what that Nitram did there. That was great. That was a lot of control. Spread that light just a little bit more. And there's a little fullness on the other side of the mouth right there, but not very much. She doesn't really have a crease right here. If she were smiling, I suppose she would, but I think we're getting really close, you guys. Little areas like that, I could probably do the same thing with the eraser, because I'm really putting in about the same value as the paper. That, you know, I have to do, now that makes that, see, now lightening that little area right there made that look too dark. So now it looks, you don't want to give her a unibrow. So let's back that up just a little bit. So that's really subtle. I don't know if that feels like, whoops, oh, yeah, see that went down. That was just a little too bright. Trying to decide if that turns form right there. And as it comes out of that shadow, wraps around that glabella and drops back down. Yeah, I suppose it does. There's just maybe a little more light right there and a little bit more. Soften that eyelash just a little bit. There's a real highlight right there. I like that. Little happy accidents like that, you put something in, and it's a good thing. Hierarchy is really important on highlights. If you're finding you're putting in, you know, like too many little highlights everywhere and they're competing, it will actually lose, it'll kind of lose its form a little bit. So it's really a good idea. Oh, that's dirty. Let's see, I need a stump that's clean. Oh, that one's, okay, that one's pretty clean. Let's see. Yeah, that one's pretty clean. The stump also works. You know, I have that little soft tool, but this is a little, actually, I'm sorry, this is a tortillon. And it's kind of nice to keep a clean tortillon for just this. So it does the exact same thing as that soft tool, but it's a little more refined. So it's really a good idea to make sure you have a hierarchy in your highlights. Try to choose one highlight that's going to be your brightest. And I'm having a hard time deciding on second highlight. I could probably choose. Looking at the photograph, they look both about the same. Maybe I'll go with that one as the second and give that one kind of the tertiary. Cool thing about these videos is when you guys fall asleep watching them, you can just rewind them and miss all the parts you missed. I don't think I've watched a single art instruction video that I haven't fallen asleep. And that's not saying anything about the instructor. It's just kind of what happens. So. All right, everybody. I think that is a wrap for this one. Although, I could come back in tomorrow and see some things I might want to work on. So there is always that potential for just a little reworking here and there. If I see a lot that's wrong with it, I'll make sure I film that. But it's usually just a couple little teeny tiny nuances of something, and that's just a great thing, just to get away from your work and come back and look at it with a fresh eye. Uh, I, I think every piece you do deserves that if you can. So yeah, I think the only major thing I did in that last little segment was I kind of pulled that head back in just a little bit. I was feeling like there was a little too much hair, which was widening things a little bit. And I've mentioned before that I tend to draw things too wide, so that kind of narrowed her just a little bit, and I think I like that. So I'm happy with that. I can kind of maybe see some nuances in that neck that I could continue working just a little bit, but that's just really, oh, it. I think it reads as the form, so I think that's the most important aspect. So I don't want to overwork that. But before I end this, I have this book back out again. I've been spending a lot of time in this. This is the Andrew Loomis book, the Head and Hands book. And there was something that kind of caught my attention this morning I wanted to read. So this is from the book, and he says, may I add one suggestion? Whatever your motive, try not to be impatient. Impatience has probably been a bigger stumbling block in the way of real ability than anything else. Doing anything well, I'm sure, means hurdling obstacles of one kind or another most of the way to the goal. Skill is the ability to overcome obstacles, the first of which is usually lack of knowledge about the thing we wish to do. And he kind of goes on and on there, talking about skill. But I thought that was a great paragraph, or part of a paragraph actually, just about impatience. And I was thinking about that as I was doing some of these little nuances in here, turning the form. And I know I fell prey to impatience many a time. It does happen. I guess that's impatience in your progression and impatience on a piece. But I guess as we sign off here, that's the last thing I'd like to leave you guys with, is just to remember to have patience, and then that's really patience for yourself. Don't try not to put too much pressure on yourself, and we all progress at different pace. And yeah, just don't be too hard on yourself. Just keep plugging away. Don't forget to squint, and just keep working. And we will see you again here soon. And I'll be working that figurative piece that I mentioned at the beginning. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching.